Hello everyone, so welcome back to my channel. Today I would like to talk about whether we should be studying more than one language at the same time. Because this is something that I've seen so much. I've come across this topic a lot with my friends. A lot of my friends have been focusing on one language for quite a long time, and some of them actually live in a country where that language is spoken. So a lot of the times this topic comes up because we have an interest in another language that isn't the language around us. And it's this feeling of, should I cut back the time that I'm using on my main language, the language that I use in my daily life, to focus on another language? But I think honestly, if you're that interested in another language, that you really want to learn another language in addition to whatever language you're learning now, I think, why wait? I studied French actively for 4 to 5 years. And then I came to Korea and I'd been studying Korean actively for about 4 years. So my Korean and my French are not perfect. My French was really great. It was amazing when I came to Korea. I've gotten rusty with it. I focused more on Korean lately. And my Korean is really good compared to 4 years ago, but I'm still not perfect in either of these languages. And who's to say how many more years I need to really feel confident that I have these languages down? I have no idea. Honestly, I don't. And if I'm just gonna wait to study another language when I master these languages, then I could be waiting years. And honestly, life is short. Why would I wait another 4 to 5 years to start learning a language when I could just do it tomorrow? I think that we tend to look at language learning as a marathon. You spend a long time on this marathon and then eventually you will finish it and then move on to the next one. But I just don't think it works that way, because in our native language, do we know every word? No, right? And if you say yes, you're lying, because if we opened up a dictionary and read every word from A to Z, there's gonna be a ton of words that we don't know. If you went to university, you read a lot of books, you're probably going to know more words in your native language than maybe other people do, but you're never gonna know the entire language. Honestly, before we die, we're not gonna know our entire native language. And I think the problem is that we look at foreign languages with this mentality that there is a finish line. We will get to some point in this language and be finished. But the issue is that even in our native language, there is no finish line. So how can we live up to this expectation? So my point is, there is no end to language learning. You could be learning a language for the rest of your life. And I think we get stuck in this mentality, and I don't know where it came from, that you have to focus on one thing and then move on to the next. And with languages, that's never gonna happen. If you think, I'm gonna finish this language, I'm gonna learn this language and then move on to the next, you're never going to move on to the next one, because you're never going to feel finished with your first language, with that first language you're studying. And I think it's just kind of ridiculous to justify waiting for 5 to 10 years to study a language just because you think you should finish one thing and move on to the next. I think it's more realistic to just do them both at the same time. If you don't think that studying 2 languages at the same time is worth it, or you're not that passionate about it, that's fine too. But I think a lot of people go online and they're searching on different blogs and videos and forums about studying 2 languages at the same time. And I think a lot of these people actually really do want to study more than one language at the same time, but they're kind of wondering, is it really smart? Is it okay? I think they're just looking for validation that yes, you can study more than one language at a time and still actually learn the languages. So of course, if you're studying more languages, you have less time for each, right? It doesn't necessarily mean that you won't progress in these languages, but it might be slower than, for example, someone who's only focusing on one language. Do you really want to be stuck learning one language for the rest of your life and not have time for another? If the answer is no, I don't want that, then I think that comparing yourself to someone who focuses all their time on one language is just not helpful. Of course, if all they do is focus on one language, they're gonna get better maybe quickly, but they will only know that one language. If you wanna know more than one language, you have to somewhat divide your time more. I think this weird traditional sense of just tunnel vision on one language just doesn't make sense. I can understand people are thinking maybe, if you dedicate all your time to one language versus two things, obviously more time spent equals, more progress, I guess. But honestly, we're human beings. We get bored. We want to do different things. So I think studying more than one language is great. Just do it. I don't know. Just do it. Okay, just do it. Just do what you want. Don't be held back by what other people say or what other people think. If you want to do it, just try it and try and make it work. And that's all that we can do, because I think that the satisfaction of doing what you want and enjoying yourself is more beneficial than waiting 5 years to study a language. Like, honestly, we do this partly because we're interested, right? So why would you wait 5 years to start a new hobby that you've always wanted to do? I don't know. So just think about it with a little bit of common sense. Come on, people. I think though the biggest thing is, if you're trying to work more than one language into your schedule, is trying to figure out how to do that. I think a lot of those people who are wondering if it's okay to study more than one language at a time are also wondering, like, how the heck do I fit this in my schedule? Because honestly, I've been one of those people, and I'm not gonna lie, it's hard. It's really hard to find the time. And especially, it turns into this weird relationship where, like, there's language A and language B. And if you spend a lot of time on language A, you feel guilty because you've neglected language B. And then if you spend too much time on language B, you're kind of like, oh, poor language A, I'm not getting good at it. It's like, it's back and forth in your mind. I think first and foremost, decide. Do you want to prioritize one language over the other, or do you want to split the time 50-50? If you feel like there's more reason to focus on one language than the other, that's fine. Just schedule accordingly. I recommend making time for both languages in the same week. I know some people will say, like, 1 week they do one language, the next week they do another, or they spend 1 month on one month on the other. If the time spent between one study session and the other with the same language is really far apart, like a month apart, you're gonna just lose a bunch of stuff. Like, you're actually gonna hurt yourself, I think, if you put too much time between studying. So for me, rule of thumb is I spend about 5 days in my week studying language. If I'm trying to study 2 languages, I might spend like 3 days on the more prioritized language and 2 days on the other. I think it's just important to make this balance in the week, because if you have this big gap and a big pause, when you go back to study the language the next time, you're just gonna play catch up. And I think you're just gonna end up losing in the end. I think the biggest secret at the end of the day when it comes to balance is just less is more. It's better to be more consistent with your language learning than to, I don't know, spend like one whole Saturday cramming as much Korean as you can, and then for 2 weeks being busy, and then just doing that again another weekend with another language. You really need to just make a little bit of time for whatever languages you want to learn in your weekly schedule, just like maybe you make time for reading or watching TV. I think another thing I really want to talk about is, I've seen so many people talk about, if you're going to study more than one language at the same time, you should study languages that are different. Because the mentality is, if they're really different, you're not going to mix up the languages very much. You're not going to get confused about some of the words that are similar, or the grammar, or things like that. And it'll be easier to like separate the languages. But honestly, when I was in university, I studied French and Spanish, and they're really similar. I was like looking at Spanish words, or like cognate words that are the same in both language, and like pronouncing it like French, or trying to conjugate in a French style. But I never did this with French, just with Spanish, because my French was stronger. And I thought, okay, I guess similar languages at the same time doesn't work. But now I'm in Korea, and my French was like amazing when I got here. Like, it was much more stronger than my Korean. And now my Korean is a lot better, and I use Korean more, that when I actually go to speak French or use it in any context, if I have to think about a word or like what I'm trying to say, like Korean words come out. And these languages have nothing in common. I think that mentality of like, if a language is similar, you're gonna mix them up versus like a language that's different, I don't really think that's true. I think language learning is more about muscle memory if you are using one language all the time and then you just try and study another language, I think in general, the stronger language, the language that's like more front and center in your brain, is just gonna come out and dominate the weaker language. And I think honestly, it doesn't matter if you study a language that's similar or different. I think it's more important to just study the languages you wanna study. I think more or less that confusion of like mixing the languages is going to exist no matter what languages you choose. If anything, if you choose languages that are similar, it might actually help you like learn one of the other languages faster. And I think the last thing I want to talk about today is motivation. It's the fire in your soul that keeps you going. And if you're really motivated to study more than one language, then that's great. It's that motivation you need to succeed. And if you have strong motivation to learn not just one, but 2 or more languages, then just hold on to that and just go for it. There are times where you get freaking frustrated at this language and you're like, I'm so tired. I've been studying this forever and like nothing's happening and I'm not getting better. You lose motivation sometimes. You get frustrated. You hit plateaus where you feel like you're spending all this time and not getting much out of it. And you constantly are changing up your study tactics and your approach. And there are just moments where you just get freaking tired and you need a break. And honestly, when you're studying more than one language, the nice thing is if you've been focusing on one language and not so much on the other, but you get really freaking tired, angry at this one language, you can just change like this for a while. Because this language isn't frustrating you. You probably have more motivation at that time. You can focus more on that language and it gives you a little bit of a break from this one without feeling like you're doing nothing. And I think that's nice. Like I feel like it's nice to have more than one language because we have different moments with each language where we get frustrated. When you're frustrated with one, just move on to the other for a while. And also, I think sometimes we are just not in the mood. Some days you might just feel like, wow, I watched this Japanese cartoon. Man, I really want to focus on Japanese today. I told myself I would do Korean, but you know, I'm really excited I want to do Japanese. I'll just do Japanese today. I feel like if you're studying more than one language, it's great because you can just kind of jump into one language, jump into the other, and you can change up your schedule as your mood changes. And I think if we're just focusing on one language, like you just get really tired and then what do? Just stop for a while? I don't know. But at the end of the day, I think if you want to study more than one language at the same time, I think it's totally doable. I think if you find the right balance in your life, you can make it work and you'll be happy doing it versus waiting forever to try. And that's it for today, basically. I just wanted to talk about reasons why you should study more than one language at a time and also just kind of tell people like, you know, why not? Because I think so many people are held back by this belief that you should wait to study a 3rd or 4th or 5th language. And I just think that we can't live our lives thinking that we can do something later. We should live our lives doing what we want now. And yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. So if there's anything that you want to say on this topic or like any questions you have about it, then feel free to leave a comment below. And if you liked watching this video, please hit the like button and please subscribe to my channel. I was trying to put videos out on Mondays, but I think from now on, I'm going to start putting them out on Tuesdays. So stay tuned. I have more language related topics coming up and I will see you later.